Hey, it's Akhtar from Reaching Excellence. In this video, I'm going to talk about the importance of creating cash flow in property, so stay tuned. Okay, so in this video, I want to talk about the importance of creating cash flow in property. I've had lots of people who are new to property, new to buy to let, wanting to know what they should be doing, what they shouldn't be doing, on what business model should they be following. So the first thing I want to say is that it's really, really important that you invest for cash flow. The old vanilla way of doing buy to let, which people used to do about 20 odd years ago, was you'd buy, sit on a property, babysit it, and wait for long-term capital appreciation. And people didn't really worry too much about the cash flow. As long as there was a little bit over that it would wash its face, it wasn't too much of a problem. Sometimes people used to subsidize their portfolio and pay for things if they need to. That's a bad move now, and the reason for that is over the last few years there's been so many new legislations and changes that have come into play, which means that old model is no longer profitable and viable. So we have things like the Section 24 tax rules that have come in. And that means that you haven't got mortgage relief anymore, so you have to make more profit from the rental income to cover your tax liabilities. The second thing is there's more laws in favour of the tenant, which means it's difficult to evict people if you need to get them out. Again, that can be a big expense if you've got to go through the hassle of evicting someone who isn't paying the rent, especially given the current climate. And of course, there's more standards when it comes to the condition of properties. So electrics have to be up to standard. You have to have EPCs done, which are energy performance certificates. Everything has to be up to a modern standard, which just means more cost. And that's on top of your regular kind of gas safety certificates and everything else. So all this stuff costs, which means that we need to start creating more cash flow and looking for properties that give us more cash flow. So number one, it can be profitable and it can sustain itself and wash its face, but also you want to be making a profit from it. So, when I started out, the way that people were doing things was investing in property as a long-term investment. People weren't really using property back then to live off the cash flow, but you can do that now as long as you buy the right way. So let's talk about some strategies that you can use to start creating cash flow in your property business. Now, I'm going to make an assumption here that you're starting out, or you could be starting out. And this video is going to cover everything for someone who's completely new, intermediate, or even if you're advanced. I'm going to give you some strategies here that can help you. So the key thing is cash flow. Cash flow is king. So when it comes to doing property deals, you want to be doing deals that are going to generate you good, high amounts of cash flow. So you want high cash flowing properties. So what does that mean? It means there's a surplus between what the mortgage and what your expenses are and what the rent is. So you want a nice, big, juicy profit on top of the mortgage and the expenses. So that's going to help you to wash its face and also give you some profit that you can put into your business, or you can reinvest, or you can draw out and use to live off if that's what you choose to do. So there's some great cash flowing strategies that you can employ. I'm just going to go through them right now. So if you're just starting out and you want to know where to start, it doesn't matter if you've got very little money, some money, or loads of money. There's various strategies that you can employ. But the key thing I'm going to suggest here is that you look for deals that will give you high cash flow. So let me give you some examples of deals that will give you good cash flow. Things like rent to rent. Rent to rent is a good strategy if you're starting out because it's low money in, sometimes no money in, for high amounts of cash back out. So typically, when it comes to doing a property deal, I personally don't want to mess around with anything that's got less than £500 a month in it. If the deal doesn't make £500 a month, I'm not really interested in it. I mean, give or take a little bit, but £500 a month is my benchmark because that I know it's going to be able to pay for itself, wash its face, and give us some profit. But you can get properties that will generate you more money than that. So with the rent to rent stuff, a lot of people do rent to rent and turn them into HMOs. Rent to rent is a great strategy. The other thing is when you're taking properties off of potential rent to rent landlords or people who just don't want their properties anymore, you take them on and you manage them and rent them out. Depending on what their mortgage is, you always want to be looking to negotiate a lower rent with them so that you've got, again, the most amount of profit. Now, why would someone do that? Well, people want certainty, especially in the economic climate we're in right now. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of stress. There's a lot of fear. People just want the certainty and they want the peace of mind. They don't want the headache and hassle of, what's it going to cost me each month? What, do I have to pay for this? What if the tenants don't pay? People don't want that. You're taking that on. You're putting that on your shoulders. So you need to make sure you can cash flow the property well, okay? There's other strategies that you can employ, like serviced accommodation, for example. So rather than renting a flat out or a house out on a monthly basis, if it's in the right location and the right kind of place, like we've got a flat that's in London. It's literally 7 minutes walk from the tube station. Great for serviced accommodation. It means that we can actually double the rent by renting out for 20 days of the month, and then we have a third of the month for it as voids. So we can double the rent. Yes, there's a little bit of admin involved because someone has to go in and turn it around, and cleaners go in and turn it around, but it will increase your cash flow significantly. Doesn't work with every property. It has to be properties in the right kind of location, and there are certain restrictions in certain places. Some places in certain central London, you can only rent out a serviced accommodation for a certain amount of time in the year. You can't rent it all year, out all year round. But it varies from places to places. So you have to test the market and make sure it's going to be viable for you to do that. Second thing is HMOs. HMOs work well. And let's talk about a mini HMO. So for example's sake, if you've got a 2-bedroom flat and it's a spacious 2-bedroom flat, you can put 2 sharers in there. And what that will allow you to do is to get more rent than if you used to have a single person in there. So again, we're always looking to see what strategies we can use to get the most amount of cash flow out of it, okay? The reason for this is because the most amount of cash flow that you've got, number one, you're going to be sustainable. You can wash your portfolio can wash its face, but with the surplus income, you can either use to reinvest or you can take out profits to live on. And it's really important because the thing is, I think when I started out, a lot of people used to see buy-to-let as a hobby. It's like a little sideline thing. I'll have 1 or 2 buy-to-lets in the background. Well, you can do that if you choose to, but really you need to start treating property like it's a business. You need to start, treating it as a business that needs to make profit. And that's how I see it, and that's how my students see it, and people inside the academy see it. That's because I teach them, look, you've got to make profit. You're not in this just for having a bunch of houses. You're in this to make profit, okay? You also want to be buying in areas where you've got good capital appreciation. So don't buy out in the sticks or somewhere remote or some village out in the middle of nowhere. Unless you know you're going to get good capital appreciation. So you want capital appreciation as a secondary thing, not a primary thing. You want cash flow as your primary objective when it comes to buying properties. So I've spoken about mini HMOs that is. Then we can go on to some larger HMOs. Again, you can take a property, convert it into a HMO, or you could buy an existing HMO. In fact, one of my students is doing this right now. He's got a marketing campaign where he's sending out letters directly to HMO landlords. There's a lot of landlords that eventually get tired, they get stressed out, they get peed off with it, or they want to retire, or they want to go off and do something else. And if you think about it, HMOs, when it comes to selling a HMO, they're a very unique kind of proposition. And what I mean by that is that most people won't buy them, okay? It's only an investor that's going to buy a HMO. So their market is very limited. Sometimes HMOs get tired. Sometimes they get a little bit run down. Sometimes they're dated. But there are people out there that want to sell HMOs. So a way of finding those deals is going on to the local authority, getting a list of the HMO register, contacting the landlords and asking them if they want to sell. Now, lots of people do that particular strategy, so you have to make sure your letters stand out, but that's a way of doing things. And again, what I've shared with you here is the importance of cash flow in your property business and some ways that you can go and generate that kind of cash flow. So I hope you found this video useful. If you've got any comments, please put them in the comment section below. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you're doing. If you've got anything that I haven't answered, or you've got another question, post it in there and I'll shoot another video for you. Please like and subscribe, and I look forward to sharing more with you in the next video. Take care. Bye for now.